So we need to know that we have a great forefather, Avraham Avinu. His entire life was dedicated to Hesed. Age of 3, he discovered HaKadosh Baruch Hu on his own. He went and he spent his whole life making Hashem's name great. He taught everybody about monotheism, believing in one God. But that's all in the Midrash. What does the Torah spend words and words in the Torah explaining about the Hesed that Avraham Avinu did? It says Avraham, he took with him Nefesh Asher Asu B'Haran, the souls that he made in Haran. So he says he planted Eshel in Beersheba, and Eshel means food, drink, and lodging. He used to host a lot of people, and whenever they would finish eating, he would say, "Bless the Creator, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, say Berkat Hamazon." Who's Hashem? Who's that? What are you talking about? And then he would have a whole conversation with them. But then the Torah tells us that one time there was 3 angels disguised as Arabs, and they came to Abraham. Angels don't eat; they didn't even benefit from the food that Abraham gave them. Nevertheless, the Torah says he went out of his way to go and prepare for them so much. Why not talk about all the kiruv missions that Avraham Avinu did? Why do we have to learn that in Midrash? And then what? The story that with the Arabs, that they didn't even eat, they were angels. The Torah spends a whole parasha talking about how he gave them this type of tongue, and this type of food, and butter, and they washed their feet, and this, and that. Tell us about all the great kiruv Avraham Avinu did. Why are you telling us about some meal he served to some guests? So really, we have to realize this is a very big lesson over here. This story didn't happen at any random time. It happens at a very specific time. When? It was a part of Avraham Avinu's life when he was 99, and he just did Brit Milah. There was no anesthesia that time. There was no hospital that time. It was Avraham Avinu took a rock, sharpened it, and he did the surgery himself. And what? He was in pain. He was weak. He was bleeding. You could think maybe it's risking his life, and he's in severe pain at that age. And what? He was really sick. He's sitting at the entrance of the tent, the heat of the day. Hashem made it very hot that day. The sun came out of the sheath. He didn't want any guests that day to come out and bother him. Yet Avraham Avinu, he didn't give up. He said, "I want to have guests." And what? He was going out of his mind. He go without guests. I can't just sit here and do nothing. I have to have guests. And what? We go out of our mind out of one day. Imagine having one day of guests. Imagine you make a party. How much you have to work, schlep, do. 3 o'clock you have to show up, pareza, start cutting the meat, doing this. You're all tired. All the time, every time. The Baal Simcha always forgets to eat. He never eats. He's always running around making sure. But that's one day of having guests. Can you imagine Avraham Avinu every single day having guests? And what? He still wanted a guest the day of his surgery. And Avraham Avinu was sitting at the entrance of the gate of the tent. And what does he do? He sees the guests. He runs. The Torah says he runs. And he tells them, "Come to my house." He tells Sarah, "Hurry, Mari, go and make cake fast." He ran to the cattle. He chased that one calf that went into Marat Mechpelah, and he hurried. He told Ishmael, "Davai Bistra." He go, and it was very quick. And what? He acted as if he didn't have hundreds of servants. Avraham Avinu already was wealthy that time. He had hundreds of servants, and what? He said, "I'm doing it myself." And he says, I'm not going to sit here and do nothing. And throughout his life, you see that he did everything with the Mesirat Nefesh. He did it with the pushing himself past his limit. So what do we see from here? That a person has to always run to the mitzvot, says the Midrash, Tanchuma. That a person a lot of times can say, "Well, I don't know, I have to go out of my way, it's a little bit difficult." Or a person, Hashem, that guy who said to Hashem, "Hashem, if you give me $10 million, I'll sit and learn on Kola all day. That's all I need, $10 million. Hashem says, "Listen, there's guys who are willing to do it $40,000 a year. You're too expensive. Why should I go and hire you? I'll hire somebody else." Right? There's thousands of prayers we say when it's easy and it's flowing. What about those prayers that we say when it's difficult, when you didn't go to sleep on time the night before? Those prayers, when you woke up and did Mesirat Nefesh, there are times 1,000 more. That's why Rambam says in Teshuva, there's some mitzvot that are worth thousands of averot. Because you don't know the value of each mitzvah. Each mitzvah is different. So therefore he says our greatness is about Avraham Avinu in this story, and the greatness of us in general is in times of difficulty, when it's hard to control ourselves, when the insult stings, when you have anger, when you have days that you don't feel well, you push yourself. That's the lesson Avraham Avinu teaches. That's what the Torah spends so much, a whole parasha, talking about his Mesirat Nefesh. So what do we see? That a person, a lot of times, The person can ask, how did Avraham Avinu do it? From where did he get the strength? Right? A person pushing himself, says there again, big lesson in life. A person pushes himself beyond the limitations of his nature and acts of Mesirat Nefesh, Hashem also will give it to you. That what? That you will also have strength above your nature. You'll go above nature. That means there's people who wake up every day 3 o'clock. There's people who wake up every day 4 o'clock in the morning, and without an alarm clock. And he says they sleep 3-4 hours at night, and they spend the whole day working. They spend the whole day doing mitzvot, and they're sharp as a knife. Their mind is so clear. They make the best decisions. People say, "I'm barely awake. How are you like this? You can cut a hair in half. How do you do that?" It's because he says it started b'sirat nefesh. How do you think this guy started? At first, it was hard for them to get out of their warm bed on a cold winter night. And then it was still dark outside. And they pushed themselves, they didn't give in. And they overcame their nature. So in the beginning it was hard. Eventually, they kept doing this. Hashem sees this guy, he wants to tap into this thing called Mesirat Nefesh. He wants to tap into this well called Mesirat Nefesh. And what do? Once you plug in and you show Hashem you're serious, then Hashem opens another gate for you called extra energy, Mesirat Nefesh, Avraham Avinu stuff, Avraham Avinu energy. And what? And then at that point, this guy's running on 3-4 hours, doesn't make any sense. Eventually, nobody understands because it's above nature. They asked for Moshe Feinstein. He was the rabbi of America. Every rabbi used to call him for questions, and he still wrote all the books that he wrote. They asked him, with which time? Don't ask me. I don't know. I ask Hashem, it's a miracle. But he was plugged in to something called Mesirat Nefesh. There's some people, they can't function without 10 or 12 hours of sleep. They wake up, they pray the late minyan, and they go to work late, and they're still tired, they're still falling asleep. Good morning. And what happens? There's a guy who sleeps 3-4 hours, and he does more than they do in 1 week. He does in 1 day. How is that possible? Because he's tapping into something called Mesirat Nefesh. The Gemara says, the Yochanan said, why the people in Bavel, they live a long life? They're above nature. Well, how do they live such a long life? David the Melech says 70 years, you usually live 80 years if you're mighty. They used to live till 100. How do they live till 100? The Gemara says, because they used to come to shul every morning, very early. And every night they would come home late, because they would stay. You would think, you can't learn night kollel and come to nets. How can you learn at night and go to nets? That's impossible. That's what they used to do. They used to go stay late at night in shul after the Arvit, pray, learn shiur, and they used to wake up early and come to shul for nets. How? So you see, exactly this. The person who does Mesirat Nefesh, Hashem gives them from the special well, the special place, like Avraham Avinu energy. And this is what King Solomon said in Mishlei, Yirat Hashem, Tarbeh Hayim. It says in the Pasuk that fear Hashem increases your life, increases your days. And the Ibn Ezra says that even though a person's lifespan usually is limited by nature, when you overcome your nature to serve Hashem, Hashem says, no, the laws of nature don't apply to you. That's it. You're in a different world. You're like Avraham Avinu, went above the mazal. You're out of this world already. That doesn't. So people invest all their time trying to extend their life. They try to eat healthy. They try to work out. Obviously, that's important. You have to digest properly. But King Solomon says that's not the end of it all. You got to focus on that, but really you got to focus on what? Yirat Hashem. Having fear of Hashem, that's really what lengthens your life. So B'ezrat Hashem, if you say, a guy tells you, why don't you come to shiur? Why don't you come to pray? I don't have time. No, my friend. You got to make time. How do you make time? Yirat Shamayim. You got to do Mesirat Nefesh. When you start pushing and acting as if there's time, all of a sudden you're going to see there's a lot of time. Baruch Adonai.